Welcome tonight to a journey back to the ancient sun-warmed stones of Athens, a city gently settling into the quiet dusk of the Mediterranean, where a man named Socrates once walked thought and invited the world to simply pause, breathe, and wonder. As you close your eyes and settle into the quiet rhythm of your own breathing, allow the lingering thoughts of the day to slowly drift away, carried off by the warm, evening breeze that sweeps down from the high hills of Attica. Picture yourself walking slowly along a winding limestone path, feeling the fading heat of the sun radiating upward from the smooth stones beneath your feet, while the vibrant colors of the day gradually soften into deep shades of indigo and violet. The air around you is thick with the soothing scents of wild thyme and sun-baked earth, mingling with the faint, sweet perfume of distant olive groves that rustle softly in the twilight. In the distance, the gentle, rhythmic hum of cicadas begins to rise, creating a natural, hypnotic lullaby that washes over the ancient city, while the last golden rays of the sun slip quietly behind the distant mountains. This is a place where time slows down, where the urgent demands of the modern world have no reach, and where you can simply exist in the peaceful stillness of a time long past. As you wander deeper into the heart of this ancient sanctuary, the grand marble columns of the city begin to glow with the soft, flickering amber light of oil lamps casting long, comforting shadows across the quiet courtyards and empty marketplaces. It is here, in the deepening quiet of the ancient world, that we meet a man who found his greatest peace, not in the pursuit of wealth or power, but in the simple, quiet act of asking questions. Socrates was not a man of grand titles or heavy crowns, but rather a humble, slow-walking citizen who moved through the bustling streets with a quiet, grounded presence. He wore a simple, unadorned cloak that draped softly over his shoulders, and he walked barefoot across the rough stones, feeling intimately connected to the earth beneath him with every deliberate step. While others rushed through their days chasing fleeting ambitions and material comforts, Socrates moved at his own unhurried pace, finding profound beauty in the slow, deliberate pursuit of inner truth. As you listen to the soft murmur of the ancient city settling into sleep, allow yourself to mirror the quiet philosophy of this barefoot wanderer, releasing the heavy burdens of assumed knowledge and the complex worries of the day. Socrates believed that the true essence of a peaceful life comes from letting go of all the things we think we must know, and instead embracing the gentle, open space of quiet wonder. You do not need to solve the world's puzzles tonight, nor do you need to carry the weight of tomorrow's expectations. For in this safe, ancient space, there is nothing expected of you but to rest. Imagine sitting beside him on a smooth, cool stone bench, watching as the first silver stars begin to quietly emerge in the vast, darkening canvas of the Mediterranean sky. There is no urgency in his presence, no demand for quick answers, only a warm, inviting silence that encourages your mind to slow down and find comfort in the simple rhythm of the present moment. He understood that our minds often become clouded by the noise of the world, and that true clarity and peace are only found when we allow the dust to settle, gently stripping away the unnecessary layers of our daily lives until we are left with a quiet, undisturbed core. As the evening deepens and the olive leaves continue to whisper softly above you, feel your own body becoming heavier, sinking deeper into a state of profound relaxation. Let the image of the slow-walking philosopher guide you further into tranquility, recognizing that there is a deep, enduring peace in accepting the simple mysteries of life without the need to force an answer. As you lay here, wrapped in the safety of the night, allow his gentle wisdom to act as a soft blanket over your mind, slowly smoothing out the tight creases of your thoughts. There is a profound comfort in knowing that you, too, can simply observe the world without the need to control it, letting the quiet tide of sleep pull you gently away from the shore of waking life. The ancient city sleeps around you, its marble temples standing as silent, steady guardians in the dark, while the stars trace their slow, predictable arcs across the sky, just as they did thousands of years ago, when the barefoot philosopher closed his own eyes to rest. As the quiet evening settles deeply over the ancient world, let us travel back to the very beginning of this remarkable life, finding our way to a humble rural deme known as Alopece, nestled just outside the protective southern walls of Athens. Here, away from the immediate clamor of the grand civic center, the air was sweeter, carrying the earthy fragrance of sun-baked clay and the gentle, comforting scent of wild fig trees that dotted the rolling hillsides. It was in this modest, peaceful neighborhood, around the year 470 before our current era, that Socrates first opened his eyes to the soft, golden light of the Mediterranean sun. His childhood was not one of grand palaces or silken garments, but rather a deeply grounded, tactile existence, rooted in the honorable, patient work of a family that made its living through the skilled labor of their own hands. His father, Sophroniscus, was a stonecutter and sculptor, a man who spent his days in the steady, rhythmic pursuit of drawing beauty out of rough, unyielding rock. If you close your eyes and listen closely to the quiet echoes of the past, you can almost hear the slow, hypnotic sound of the stonemason's yard, where the steady clink of an iron chisel meeting pale, raw Pentelic marble created a comforting, predictable heartbeat for the young boy's early years. Sophroniscus taught his son the slow, deliberate art of observation, showing him how to look at a formless block of stone and patiently envision the perfect, harmonious shape that was already resting quietly inside, simply waiting to be revealed. This tactile, patient craft required a deep, centering focus, as the mason slowly and carefully chipped away everything that was unnecessary, allowing the true form to emerge into the light of day. It was a beautiful, slow metaphor that would shape the entirety of Socrates' life, gently teaching him that wisdom and clarity are often found not by adding more to our minds, but by slowly peeling away the heavy layers of assumption and illusion that cloud our inner vision, while his father worked with the solid, enduring weight of the earth. His mother, Phanerete, possessed a different kind of quiet, nurturing strength, serving her community as a skilled and compassionate midwife. She was a calming presence in moments of profound transition, offering steady hands and a reassuring voice to mothers as they brought new life into the world. Phanerete did not create the new life herself, but rather she acted as a gentle guiding force, providing the right support and the necessary comfort at exactly the right time to help bring forth what was already waiting to be born. As you lay here, allowing your own breathing to match the slow, steady rhythm of the ancient world, consider how these two humble professions perfectly combine to form the foundation of the philosopher's soul. Years later, Socrates would fondly look back on his parents' gentle trades, seeing himself not as a teacher who forced knowledge into the minds of his companions, but as a spiritual midwife and a careful stonemason, helping others to give birth to the profound ideas they already held within themselves, simply by asking the right questions and patiently clearing away the dust of confusion. The sensory world of early classical Athens was a rich tapestry of grounding textures and soft, earthy tones, and the young Socrates absorbed it all with a quiet, watchful reverence. He learned the specific, dry smell of marble dust that lingered in the afternoon air, settling like a fine white snow over the workbenches and the rough stone floors of his father's workshop. He felt the coarse, reassuring texture of unpolished rock beneath his fingertips, understanding the slow, inevitable passage of time required to smooth away the sharp edges of the world. This was an era of extraordinary creation in Athens, a golden age where the magnificent columns of the Parthenon were slowly beginning to rise on the high Acropolis, reaching toward the clear blue heavens as a testament to human patience and devotion. Yet, amid this grand, sweeping ambition of empire and architecture, the stonecutter's son remained deeply anchored to the simple, everyday realities of the ground he walked upon, always choosing the unadorned truth over the glittering promise of superficial beauty. As he grew from a quiet, observant boy into a sturdy, thoughtful young man, Socrates received the traditional balanced education of an Athenian citizen, spending long, peaceful afternoons learning to read the flowing script of the ancient poets and listening to the rhythmic musical cadence of Homeric epics recited in the cool shade of the courtyards. He trained his body in the dusty, sunlit palaestra, moving with the slow, deliberate grace of someone who understood the deep connection between physical grounding and mental clarity. There was no rush in his development, no frantic urgency to make a name for himself or to acquire the heavy, burdensome trappings of wealth that so often distract the human heart from its true purpose. Instead, he moved through his early years much like a block of fine marble being gently worked by a master craftsman, allowing the experiences of his youth to slowly shape his character, rounding off his edges and preparing him for the profound philosophical journey that lay quietly ahead. Let the image of the young Socrates, sitting quietly amidst the fragrant shavings of wood and the soft white dust of marble, lull you further into a state of absolute, undisturbed peace. The repetitive, soothing sounds of the ancient workshop are fading now into the soft, warm hum of the Athenian twilight, carrying away any lingering tension in your shoulders and your jaw. There is nothing you need to build tonight, nothing you need to carve or perfect, for you are already whole, just as the statue exists perfectly within the untouched stone. Allow the quiet, nurturing spirit of the midwife to cradle your weary mind, gently guiding you toward the restful, restorative sleep that your body naturally knows how to find. As the sun continues its slow, inevitable descent behind the rugged, silent hills of Attica, you can simply rest here in the comforting embrace of the ancient past, trusting in the slow, beautiful process of the night as it smooths away the cares of the waking world, leaving you safe, grounded, and profoundly at peace. As the years flowed gently on in the ancient city, the quiet rhythm of the stonemason's yard eventually gave way to a different, but equally grounded, duty that called the young philosopher away from the familiar walls of Athens. It was a time when the Greek world found itself caught in the slow, sweeping tides of the Peloponnesian War, a vast movement of people and history that asked every citizen to step forward and take their place in the collective rhythm of the city's defense. Socrates, always steady and unwavering in his commitments, quietly took up the heavy wooden shield and long ash spear of a hoplite, joining the long lines of men who marched steadily toward the distant, rolling horizons of the north. The bronze armor that the soldiers wore, often heavy and imposing in the bright light of day, took on a soft, muted glow as the evening shadows began to stretch across the rolling plains, reflecting the gentle, fading colors of the sunset. He carried his shield not as a weapon of aggression, but as a broad, protective roof under which he and his companions could find safety and respite when the long days drew to a close. Yet even in the midst of this profound shift from the peaceful olive groves to the austere landscapes of military campaigns at Pisidia and Delium, he carried the profound stillness of his father's workshop with him, moving through the world with a calm, unhurried grace that seemed to quietly anchor everyone around him. As you listen to the rhythmic, hypnotic crunch of leather sandals moving in unison across the dusty trails, allow yourself to feel the comforting predictability of that steady collective motion, a slow, grounding march that carries you further away from the urgent demands of your own day and into a vast open landscape of deep, undisturbed peace. The military campaigns often led the Athenian soldiers far from the warm, sun-baked earth of their home, guiding them deep into the rugged, wind-swept hills of Thrace, where the winters were long, quiet, and wrapped in a thick, heavy blanket of pure white snow. The pale winter light filtered softly through the heavy gray clouds, casting a gentle, silvery illumination over the dormant forests and the frozen streams that carved their way through the valleys. While his fellow soldiers huddled tightly together beneath multiple layers of heavy wool and thick leather boots, retreating to the flickering warmth of the campfires, passing small warm cups of heated wine and speaking in hushed, trembling voices about the comforts of their distant homes, the Stonecutter's son found a deep, abiding contentment exactly where he was. He walked calmly through the frozen landscape in the very same simple, unadorned cloak he wore back in the sunlit agora. He moved barefoot across the soft, silent snowdrifts, his steps steady and deliberate, feeling intimately connected to the stark, quiet beauty of the sleeping earth beneath him. He was a man who possessed a remarkable, almost supernatural endurance, quietly accepting the bitter cold and the physical hardships of the march without a single word of complaint, demonstrating that true comfort comes not from controlling the harsh elements around us, but from cultivating an unshakable, quiet warmth deep within our own souls. Imagine the soft, muffled sound of his bare feet pressing gently into the fresh snow, a soothing, rhythmic cadence that invites your own physical body to release any lingering tension, settling into the comforting realization that you are completely safe and warm in your own resting place. During these long campaigns, the inevitable realities of the ancient world sometimes brought the soldiers to the edge of the battlefield, yet even in moments that might have invited fear or confusion, Socrates remained a perfect portrait of profound, rooted calmness. At Pisidia, when a brilliant but impulsive young companion named Alcibiades found himself wounded and vulnerable on the dusty ground, Socrates simply and quietly stepped forward, lifting his friend with gentle, steady strength and carrying him to the safety of the rear, moving with the same patient care a stonemason might use when lifting a delicate piece of sculpted marble. Later, during the slow, difficult retreat from the fields of Delium, while others allowed panic to quicken their steps and scatter their formations, Socrates walked calmly and deliberately backward, his shield raised in quiet defense, surveying the landscape with such serene, composed dignity that even the pursuing soldiers simply parted and let him be, recognizing a spirit that could not be hurried or disturbed. As the dust of the retreat slowly settled back onto the quiet earth, coating the olive leaves in a fine, pale powder, his unwavering composure served as a guiding light for the men who walked beside him. They found that simply looking at his calm, relaxed features, the soft lines around his eyes, the gentle, unhurried rhythm of his chest rising and falling, was enough to soothe their own racing hearts, anchoring them safely back in the present moment. In his presence, the chaotic noise of the world simply melted away, replaced by a steady, comforting rhythm of deep, unbothered breathing that softly instructed those around him to simply slow down, find their footing, and trust in the solid earth beneath them. It was during the long, hushed hours of the night watches that the true depth of the philosopher's stillness was most beautifully revealed to the sleeping world. While the rest of the camp lay quietly under their woolen blankets, their breaths rising like soft white plumes in the cold night air, Socrates would occasionally step away from the dim, glowing embers of the fires to stand alone in the vast open darkness of the northern hills. He would plant his bare feet firmly on the frost-covered ground, fold his arms beneath his simple cloak, and enter a state of deep, undisturbed contemplation that would last for hours, sometimes remaining completely motionless from the first pale silver light of dusk, all the way through to the soft golden arrival of the morning sun. The sentries who paced the perimeter of the camp would occasionally pause to watch him, marveling at the way his breathing seemed to slow and deepen until it became entirely imperceptible, as if he had become a natural extension of the very landscape itself. There was no rigidity in his posture, no tense gripping of muscles to ward off the chill, but rather a soft, yielding acceptance of the night air, allowing the stillness to flow through him like a quiet, underground river. He was simply listening to the quiet, eternal whispers of his own mind, exploring the vast invisible architecture of the soul, while the ancient stars traced their slow, hypnotic arcs across the deep indigo canvas of the heavens above. As you lie here in the comfortable darkness of your own room, imagine the profound, absolute stillness of that solitary figure standing beneath the midnight sky, entirely untroubled by the passage of time, simply existing in a state of pure, quiet being. The stars that watched over his silent meditations are the very same stars that shine quietly above you tonight, a comforting reminder of the enduring, peaceful continuity of the natural world. Socrates understood that our minds, much like the vast night sky, hold infinite spaces of quiet beauty if we simply allow ourselves the time to stand still and observe them without trying to change their course. Let his remarkable ability to find a peaceful sanctuary amidst the vast, open spaces of the world inspire your own journey into rest tonight. As the soft velvet darkness wraps gently around you, imagine that you too are standing under that ancient, star-filled canopy, feeling the cool, refreshing night air gently sweeping away the lingering heat and noise of the waking hours. There is a deep, restorative magic in allowing yourself to become completely motionless, letting your breathing slow to match the majestic, unhurried rotation of the earth. Just as the barefoot philosopher did so many centuries ago. Feel the heavy, relaxing weight of your limbs as they sink deeper into the soft support beneath you, knowing that there are no battles you need to fight tonight, no long marches you need to endure, and no complex thoughts you need to unravel. You can simply rest here, cradled by the quiet, reassuring presence of the ancient world, allowing the slow, rhythmic heartbeat of history to guide you ever deeper into a soft, dreamless, and profoundly peaceful sleep, while the calm, steady spirit of the citizen soldier watches quietly over your rest. When the military campaigns finally came to a close, slowly releasing the citizens back to the familiar comforts of their homes, Socrates returned to the warm, sun-drenched embrace of Athens, bringing with him that same profound, unshakable stillness he had cultivated beneath the vast winter stars. As the first pale rays of the Mediterranean dawn began to gently touch the terracotta roofs of the city, painting the sky in soft shades of peach and lavender, while the distant Aegean Sea caught the first shimmering reflections of the morning, turning the water into a vast canvas of liquid gold, the philosopher would rise quietly from his simple wooden bed. The air inside his small home was still and cool, smelling faintly of dried herbs and old wood. There was no rush to his morning, no frantic preparation for the demands of the day, only a slow, deliberate transition from the quiet realm of sleep to the gentle awakening of the ancient world. He wrapped his familiar, well-worn cloak around his sturdy shoulders and stepped out from his modest doorway, his bare feet meeting the cool, smooth stones of the street that still held the lingering chill of the night. As you imagine the soft, rhythmic sound of his slow footsteps echoing lightly down the narrow, winding pathways of Alopece, allow your own breathing to synchronize with his unhurried pace, feeling a deep, reassuring sense of grounding with every imaginary step you take alongside him. The city was slowly coming to life around him, waking with a comfortable, predictable rhythm that had remained beautifully unchanged for generations. The air was beginning to warm gently, carrying the sweet, earthy fragrance of ripe figs, the comforting aroma of fresh bread baking in clay ovens, the rich scent of dark olives and sharp cheeses laid out on wooden tables, and the distant familiar bleating of goats being guided slowly toward the pastures by shepherds who hummed ancient wordless tunes. The stones beneath his feet grew warmer as the sun rose, providing a gentle, comforting heat that spread upward through his body. Socrates made his way gradually down toward the agora, the sprawling open heart of Athenian public life. But unlike the merchants who hurried to set up their stalls, or the politicians who nervously rehearsed their urgent speeches, he moved with the relaxed, wandering gait of a man who had absolutely nowhere he needed to be. He was not going to the market to buy or sell, for he possessed no wealth and desired no possessions, finding his deep abiding contentment in the simple, free air of the morning and the endlessly fascinating tapestry of human life that unfolded quietly before him. Imagine the ancient agora, not as a place of chaotic noise, but as a vibrant living organism gently humming with a soft, steady murmur of voices that blends together into a soothing, continuous current of sound, much like the gentle rushing of a distant, shallow river over smooth stones. As the morning sun climbed higher into the bright, cloudless sky, casting a brilliant golden light over the magnificent marble temples of the Acropolis, high above the sprawling marketplace below, found its shelter in the cool, inviting shade of broad, ancient plane trees and the long, elegant colonnades of the covered stoas. Socrates would often find a comfortable resting spot here, sitting quietly on a low stone wall or leaning gently against a sun-warmed marble pillar, feeling the ancient stone supporting his back like a trusted, silent companion. He would simply sit and watch the dappled sunlight filter softly through the broad green leaves above, creating mesmerizing dancing patterns of light and shadow on the dusty ground beneath his feet. The leaves rustled softly in the gentle Mediterranean breeze, creating a sound much like the distant lapping of waves against a sandy shore. It was a space that felt entirely removed from the pressures of time and achievement. He was a familiar, deeply comforting presence in the bustling square, a quiet anchor amidst the flowing tide of citizens. People from all walks of life were naturally drawn to his magnetic calmness, instinctively slowing their own hurried steps when they approached him, recognizing that entering his orbit meant stepping out of the rushed, anxious river of daily commerce and stepping into a calm, reflective pool of pure, undisturbed presence. You, too, can step into this quiet shade right now, allowing the heat and pressure of your own day to simply melt away as you rest beneath the ancient, protective canopy of the philosopher's favorite gathering place. Socrates had a deep, enduring respect for the humble craftsmen of the city, often wandering slowly through the artisan quarters, where the rhythmic, hypnotic sounds of honest labor filled the warm afternoon air. He would pause to softly observe the shoemaker carefully cutting and stitching soft, supple leather, or the blacksmith rhythmically striking glowing metal upon an anvil, watching the bright orange sparks dance briefly in the dim light of the forge, or the carpenter smoothly planing long, fragrant boards of cedar and pine, watching the soft curls of wood fall silently to the dusty floor. He would stand there for long, quiet moments, simply breathing in the rich scents of the workshop, and letting the rhythmic sounds of creation wash over him. He observed their deliberate, patient movements with genuine admiration, recognizing that these men possessed a true, grounded understanding of their specific materials, a beautiful knowledge born of slow, repetitive practice and deep, tactile engagement with the physical world. When he struck up a conversation with them, his voice was never loud or demanding. Instead, it possessed a soft musical quality, carrying the warm, inviting tone of a dear friend who simply wanted to understand the beautiful mysteries of their craft. He would ask them gentle, probing questions about their work and their lives, weaving a slow, comfortable dialogue that felt less like a philosophical interrogation and much more like a shared cooperative journey, walking side by side down a quiet, sunlit path toward a deeper, more peaceful understanding of the world. These quiet conversations in the market square rarely focused on the grand, abstract theories of the universe, but rather on the simple, practical virtues that anchor a meaningful, well-lived life. Socrates would lean in slightly, his warm, expressive eyes reflecting a genuine, gentle curiosity, and ask his companions what they truly meant when they spoke of courage or justice, or the delicate, enduring bonds of friendship. He would listen to their answers with profound, unwavering attention, making them feel as though they were the only person in the entire city, treating every word they spoke as a precious gift, waiting to be unwrapped. He did not ask these questions to trap them or to prove his own superior intellect, for he genuinely and humbly claimed to know nothing at all, but rather to help them slowly untangle the tight, complicated knots of their own assumptions. As the dialogue flowed back and forth, moving like a slow, predictable tide, washing smoothly over the sands of the mind, the heavy layers of inherited beliefs and unexamined opinions would gradually begin to wash away, leaving behind a clean, open space of quiet realization. This state of productive confusion, which the ancient Greeks called aporia, was not a place of anxiety or distress, but rather a soft, welcoming clearing in the dense forest of the human mind, a peaceful sanctuary where one could finally put down the heavy, exhausting burden of pretending to know everything, gently setting aside the armor of ego and the weight of expectations, and simply rest in the profound, liberating comfort of not knowing. As you lie here, listening to the soft, rhythmic murmur of these ancient conversations echoing gently through the quiet corridors of time, allow yourself to experience that very same sense of profound intellectual and emotional release. You do not need to hold on to the rigid definitions of your life tonight, nor do you need to defend your opinions or continuously try to figure out the complex, shifting puzzles of tomorrow. Socrates offers you the ultimate, loving permission to simply let go, gently encouraging you to gradually release your tight grip on all the absolute certainties that keep your mind racing in the dark. You can allow your muscles to soften, letting your shoulders drop and your jaw relax, mirroring the physical ease of the barefoot philosopher who found his greatest joy in simply being present. Imagine sitting comfortably beside him under the whispering plane trees, feeling the soft, warm breeze gently carrying away the accumulated dust of your daily worries, leaving your mind as clear, open, and tranquil as the vast, cloudless Athenian sky stretching out over the quiet sea. The gentle, cooperative rhythm of his questioning acts as a soothing lullaby, a repetitive, calming cadence that slowly and surely lulls your active thoughts to sleep continuously, inviting you to sink deeper and deeper into a state of pure, uncomplicated being where the only thing that truly matters is the slow, steady rise and fall of your own breathing and the deep, profound peace of this very moment. Beyond the bustling limits of the Athenian marketplace, far away from the sun-warmed stones of the city, there lay a place of profound ancient mystery, nestled high in the rugged, misty cliffs of Mount Parnassus. This was Delphi, a quiet, sacred sanctuary dedicated to Apollo, where the earth itself seemed to breathe in a slow, deep rhythm, and where the air was always cool, crisp, and fragrant with the scent of wild mountain pine. It was to this remote, peaceful haven that a devoted and eager friend of Socrates, a man named Chaerephon, made a long, winding pilgrimage, walking slowly up the steep, narrow paths, as the morning mist rolled gently over the pale stones. As you picture this solitary traveler moving steadily upward through the quiet clouds, allow yourself to feel a sense of profound distance from the noisy world below, ascending into a space of pure, undisturbed clarity. The sanctuary at Delphi was a place where kings and commoners alike came to lay down their heavy burdens of uncertainty, seeking a gentle whisper of guidance from the Pythian priestess who sat quietly in the dim, tranquil inner chamber of the temple. The light inside the sanctuary was soft and golden, filtering through the rising curls of sweet, earthy incense that drifted lazily toward the high stone ceiling, creating an atmosphere of deep, comforting reverence. It was here, in this hushed and holy stillness, that Xenophon asked a simple, unassuming question, wondering if there was anyone in the world wiser than his dear, barefoot friend back in Athens. The answer that emerged from the shadows of the temple was not a grand, booming declaration, but a soft, quiet pronouncement that would gently ripple through the centuries as the priestess simply stated that no one was wiser than Socrates. When Xenophon made the long, peaceful journey back down the mountain and returned to the familiar sunlit streets of the city to share this cryptic message, Socrates received the news, not with a chest swelling with pride, but with a deep, humble, and genuine confusion. He knew his own mind intimately, and he knew with absolute, comforting certainty that he possessed no special expertise, no grand political strategies, and no profound knowledge of the universe. He was merely a man who walked slowly through the days, completely aware of his own limitations, and the idea that the divine oracle had named him the wisest of all men seemed like a gentle, unsolvable riddle waiting patiently to be understood. Instead of dismissing the oracle or allowing his ego to take hold, Socrates chose to treat the pronouncement as an invitation to a slow, methodical, and deeply reflective exploration, embarking on a quiet quest not to prove the oracle right, but to simply understand the true nature of wisdom itself. Imagine the barefoot philosopher setting out on this new, deliberate journey, his pace as unhurried and steady as ever, his mind open and clear like a calm, unruffled lake reflecting the vast blue sky. He decided to seek out those individuals in Athens who were widely celebrated for their knowledge, hoping that by conversing with them, he might find someone who truly understood the deep complexities of the world, thereby unraveling the mystery of the oracle's words. His first gentle encounters were with the statesmen and politicians, the men who stood tall in the assembly and spoke with loud, confident voices about justice, leadership, and the proper way to guide the city. Socrates approached them with the warm, unassuming demeanor of a curious student, softly asking them to explain the true essence of the noble concepts they spoke of so frequently. Yet, as the conversations flowed gently back and forth, moving through a slow, rhythmic pattern of questions and thoughtful pauses, a quiet realization began to emerge from the shadows of their grand speeches. Socrates discovered that beneath their heavy armor of certainty and their polished, eloquent words, these confident leaders were merely floating on the surface of understanding, unable to anchor their beliefs in any deep, solid ground of truth. Through his careful, persistent, and entirely unthreatening inquiries, he helped them slowly peel back the layers of their own assumptions, revealing that they did not truly comprehend the profound concepts they claimed to master. There was no malice in this discovery, no harsh victory for the philosopher, only a shared, quiet arrival at a state of gentle confusion, a soft clearing in the mind where the illusion of absolute knowledge simply melted away like morning dew under the warming sun. Socrates then wandered slowly toward the shaded courtyards, where the city's revered poets gathered, listening to the beautiful, rhythmic verses that captured the triumphs and tragedies of the human heart. He asked these creators of divine song to explain the deeper meaning behind their captivating words, hoping to find a wellspring of conscious wisdom. But once again, he found that while their art was undeniably beautiful, flowing from a place of soft, mysterious inspiration, the poets themselves could not explain the nature of their own creations. They were like hollow, gentle reeds through which a beautiful melody played, possessing a talent that was entirely separate from grounded conscious understanding, leaving Socrates to continue his slow, peaceful walk through the city with the riddle still resting softly in his mind. Finally, guided by a deep respect for honest, tangible labor, he found his way back to the familiar, comforting sounds of the artisan quarters, seeking out the skilled craftsmen who worked with leather, wood, and iron. Here, amidst the earthy smells of the workshops and the rhythmic, soothing sounds of tools meeting material, he finally found men who possessed genuine, undeniable knowledge about their specific trades. A carpenter knew exactly how to shape the fragrant pine, and a blacksmith understood the exact moment the glowing metal was ready to be struck, demonstrating a beautiful, practical mastery of the physical world. Yet, as Socrates gently guided the conversation beyond the boundaries of their workbenches, he noticed a subtle, familiar shadow creeping into their thoughts. Because they had mastered the quiet, predictable rules of their own crafts, they mistakenly assumed that this same mastery extended to the vast, unpredictable complexities of life, virtue, and the universe. They had allowed the comfort of their specific expertise to create an illusion of universal wisdom, unknowingly burdening themselves with opinions and certainties about things they did not truly understand. As the sun began to dip low on the horizon, casting long, peaceful shadows across the dusty streets of Athens, Socrates finally came to understand the profound, liberating truth hidden within the oracle's gentle riddle. He realized that all the people he had spoken with carried a heavy, invisible weight upon their shoulders, the exhausting burden of believing they knew things they did not actually know. They spent their days defending fragile illusions and maintaining the exhausting appearance of constant certainty. Socrates, however, was entirely free from this heavy burden. The oracle had called him wise simply because he was the only man who was completely, comfortably aware of his own ignorance. He understood that true wisdom does not come from accumulating a massive mountain of facts or holding tightly to rigid opinions, but rather from cultivating a vast, open, and peaceful space within the mind, a space that is unafraid to simply say, "I do not know." This was the wisdom of ignorance, a soft, welcoming embrace of life's infinite mysteries, requiring no defense, no argument, and no stressful exertion of the ego. As you lie resting in the quiet sanctuary of your own room, allow this deeply comforting realization to wash over you, smoothing away the tight edges of your own thoughts. Think of all the complex problems you have been trying to solve today, all the heavy certainties you feel obligated to carry, and all the confusing questions about tomorrow that keep your mind spinning in the dark. You can simply put them down now, laying them gently on the cool earth beside you, just as Socrates laid down the need to understand the universe. There is an incredible, profound relief in accepting that you do not need to have all the answers tonight. You do not need to be an expert in everything, nor do you need to pretend that you hold the map to every path. You are allowed to simply exist in the quiet, gentle space of not knowing, letting the pressure of expectation dissolve completely into the soft, supporting shadows of the night. Feel the gentle, rhythmic motion of your breathing, anchoring you to this very moment, recognizing that in this pure, simple state of existence, you are perfectly safe, perfectly whole, and profoundly at peace. Let the image of the barefoot philosopher smiling softly at his own beautiful lack of knowledge guide you ever deeper into a state of absolute, untroubled relaxation, allowing the soothing tide of sleep to carry you away on its calm, quiet waters. As the long golden afternoons of the ancient world began to softly transition into the evening, casting long, gentle, protective shadows across the dusty, sun-baked pathways of the city, Socrates would often slowly wander away from the center of the bustling market, letting the quiet, familiar rhythm of his bare feet guide him toward the peaceful, shaded edges of Athens. Beyond the heavy, protective stone walls of the city lay the cool, inviting groves of the academy, a tranquil, lush sanctuary where ancient olive trees stood like silent, patient guardians, their silvery green leaves whispering softly and continuously in the warm, gentle Mediterranean breeze. Nearby, the shallow, remarkably clear waters of the Alopece River murmured endlessly as they flowed over smooth, pale pebbles, creating a natural, hypnotic, and repetitive melody that seemed to effortlessly wash away the complex worries, the tight anxieties, and the heavy demands of the waking day. It was here, resting upon the soft, fragrant, grassy banks of the gently curving river beneath the expansive protective canopy of the sprawling plane trees, that the barefoot philosopher found a deep restorative sanctuary, a quiet, welcoming clearing in the world where the human mind could finally rest and simply exist in perfect, undisturbed harmony with the gentle breath of the natural world. Picture yourself walking slowly and deliberately alongside him, feeling the cool, refreshing shade wash gently over your face, while the sweet, earthy scent of damp soil, crushed wild thyme, and sun-warmed bark fills the quiet air around you, grounding your body entirely in this peaceful, unhurried, and perfect moment in time. It was to these serene, deeply shaded groves that the youth of the city naturally and inevitably gravitated, drawn as if by a quiet magnet to a comforting, grounded presence that offered them something entirely different from the rigid, heavy expectations of their noble families and the frantic, ambitious, and exhausting energy of Athenian politics. Among these young men was a thoughtful, broad-shouldered youth named Plato, born into immense wealth and aristocratic privilege, carrying the heavy, invisible, and exhausting burden of a predetermined life, expected by everyone around him to eventually conquer the noisy assembly and accumulate massive earthly power. Yet, as Plato sat quietly on the soft, yielding grass beside the older, unassuming philosopher, listening to the calm, unhurried, and melodic cadence of Socrates' voice mingling seamlessly with the gentle rushing of the nearby river, the young man felt all of those heavy inherited expectations slowly and completely melt away, replaced by a profound, liberating sense of lightness, freedom, and absolute mental clarity. There were no formal, intimidating classrooms here beneath the leaves, no rigid, complex lectures to frantically memorize, and no urgent, stressful tests to pass. Only a warm, cooperative, and deeply peaceful gathering of minds engaged in the slow, beautiful, and patient untangling of life's deepest and most comforting questions. Socrates treated these eager young men not as empty, ignorant vessels that needed to be filled with absolute answers, but as trusted equal and valued companions on a slow, winding walk through a vast, quiet forest, gently holding up a soft lantern to help them slowly illuminate the rich, quiet, and beautiful spaces already residing within their own souls. As you lie resting quietly in the safety of your room tonight, allow yourself to deliberately release any heavy expectations you have been carrying throughout your day, letting the gentle, accepting, and warm atmosphere of this ancient gathering cradle your tired mind, knowing with absolute certainty that here in this safe space, you do not need to perform, you do not need to achieve, and you are entirely free to simply be exactly who you are. When the bright sun finally began to dip slowly below the distant rolling and rugged hills, gradually painting the vast open Mediterranean sky in soft, soothing shades of deep violet, warm peach, and muted, glowing gold, Socrates would gradually make his peaceful way back through the darkening, quiet streets to his own modest, simple home. His life was not entirely lived out in the remote, detached realm of grand, abstract thought, for he was deeply, profoundly rooted in the comforting, everyday, tactile realities of family, sharing his quiet home with his spirited wife, Xanthippe, and their 3 growing, lively sons. While history has sometimes painted their marriage as a difficult clash of temperaments, beneath the surface of the stories lay a profound, enduring partnership, a vital, necessary balance between his ethereal, wandering philosophical nature and her deeply practical, grounded, and essential connection to the physical world. She was the steady, nurturing, and reliable heartbeat of the home, a vital force of life that continuously and gently tethered his lofty, floating thoughts back to the warm, comforting, and solid earth. Socrates found a quiet, profound beauty in her spirited nature, viewing the vibrant, sometimes challenging, but always genuine dynamics of domestic life, not as a frustrating distraction from wisdom, but as the very rich, fertile soil in which true patience, understanding, and enduring virtue were meant to quietly and slowly grow. Imagine the peaceful, enclosed courtyard of their home as the deep evening gently and completely settles over the ancient city, the smooth, terracotta tiles beneath their feet still radiating the comforting, stored warmth of the long afternoon sun. Small, simple clay lamps filled with rich, fragrant olive oil are slowly and carefully lit one by one, casting a soft, flickering amber glow that dances gently and playfully across the rough, familiar stone walls, creating a warm, protective, and intimate embrace against the gently encroaching night. The comforting, deeply familiar aromas of freshly baked bread, warm, salty olives, and savory roasted herbs linger softly and invitingly in the quiet night air, while the distant, joyful, and innocent laughter of his young sons echoes lightly and beautifully through the open wooden doorways, a pure sound that brought a slow, tender, and deeply affectionate smile to the old philosopher's weathered face. He would sit quietly on a worn, familiar wooden stool, his hands resting gently and motionlessly in his lap, simply watching his family move seamlessly through the familiar, repetitive, and deeply soothing rhythms of the evening, finding a deep, abiding, and unshakable contentment in the absolute simplicity of the present moment. he understood so perfectly, the true peace is not found by escaping the world or ignoring its details, but by learning to be entirely, completely, and peacefully present within it, accepting the gentle, inevitable ebb and flow of daily life with a soft, open, and completely untroubled heart. As the night deepened further and the lively, active sounds of the household gradually and naturally quieted into a hushed, restful, and profound stillness, the young devoted companions of Socrates would occasionally gather in that small, warm courtyard, sitting comfortably and quietly on the cool, smooth stone benches to share the quiet, unspoken intimacy of the ancient evening. Far above them, the vast, perfectly clear Athenian sky slowly blossomed with thousands of shimmering silver stars, each one igniting quietly and gradually in the dark, velvet expanse like a soft, distant, and beautiful thought coming gently into focus. There was absolutely no urgency to these late-night whispered conversations, no frantic driven desire to reach a definitive conclusion or win an argument, only a slow, rhythmic, and beautiful exploration of ideas that flowed as naturally and easily as the peaceful, steady breathing of the sleeping city that surrounded them. Socrates' voice in these quiet, sacred hours took on a hushed, deeply musical quality, carrying the warm, reassuring, and completely unconditionally loving tone of a dear friend as they spoke softly together about the eternal nature of justice, the true, hidden essence of beauty, and the infinite quiet and mysterious depths of the human soul. The words he spoke were never loud, never demanding, and never sharp, but rather they were soft, comforting invitations to simply wonder, gently floating through the still, cool night air and settling peacefully and heavily over his companions, like a warm, protective, and familiar woolen blanket. You can almost feel that very same gentle evening breeze brushing softly and carefully against your own cheek right now, carrying the faint, sweet, and ancient scent of distant pine trees and the quiet, undeniable magic of a world slowly and willingly giving itself over to rest. Allow the comforting low and rhythmic murmur of these ancient friendly voices to act as a soothing repetitive lullaby for your own weary mind, continuously and gently washing away all the lingering tensions, worries, and tightness of your day with every slow, deliberate, and quiet syllable. The brilliant silent stars that watched so patiently over that small peaceful courtyard in ancient Athens are the very same stars that shine quietly and reliably above your own home tonight, offering a beautiful, reassuring, and constant reminder of the vast enduring peace that connects us all safely across the long, slow passage of time. As your limbs grow heavier and you sink deeper and deeper into the soft, welcoming support of your bed, imagine yourself sitting quietly and comfortably among those ancient, trusted friends, feeling entirely safe, deeply understood, and completely untroubled by the busy world outside. Let the quiet, gentle wisdom of the Barefoot philosopher guide you ever further down into a state of profound, undisturbed tranquility, knowing in your heart that the most beautiful things in life require absolutely no effort to hold, and that true, lasting peace is found simply by letting go, slowly drifting down into the warm, welcoming, and entirely safe embrace of a deep, restorative sleep. Because the ancient laws of Athens required a period of pure, undisturbed peace during the sacred festival of Apollo, a full month slowly passed between the quiet conclusion of the trial and the final day of the philosopher's life. During these 30 golden days, the ship bearing the ceremonial offering sailed slowly across the calm blue waters toward the island of Delos, while Socrates remained in a small, quiet stone cell situated near the heart of the city he had loved so deeply. Yet, this simple room did not feel like a place of punishment or despair, but rather it became a peaceful, sun-dappled sanctuary, bathed every afternoon in the long, warm, and amber glow of the setting Mediterranean sun. The high, narrow window allowed a soft, gentle breeze to continually circulate through the quiet space, carrying with it the faint, familiar sense of the nearby olive groves and the distant rhythmic murmur of the bustling market square. For the Barefoot philosopher, this time was simply a quiet, reflective extension of the life he had always lived, a gentle pause in the turning of the world that allowed him to sit peacefully and prepare for the ultimate, mysterious journey that lay quietly ahead. As you listen to the slow, steady rhythm of your own breathing, imagine that same soft, sunlit calm filling your own room, washing away any lingering anxieties and replacing them with a deep, abiding sense of enduring safety. Every day, His devoted friends and closest companions would make the short, familiar walk to the prison, sitting quietly beside him on the cool stone floor to share in these final, precious hours of ancient intimacy. Some of them, driven by a deep, loving desperation, brought him carefully woven plans for escape, gently urging him to slip away in the dark of the night and find a safe, comfortable exile in a distant, welcoming city. But Socrates would simply smile, his eyes crinkling softly with profound affection, and gently place his weathered hand over theirs, explaining in his low, musical voice that running away would only mean abandoning the very principles of truth and integrity that had anchored his entire existence. He harbored absolutely no anger toward the city that had condemned him, holding no heavy resentment in his heart, for he understood with absolute comforting clarity that true harm can only come from within, and his own soul remained as pure light and untroubled as a single white cloud drifting slowly across a vast open sky. He spent these long, quiet afternoons doing exactly what he had done his entire life, engaging in slow, beautiful, and cooperative conversations about the nature of the soul, gently exploring the comforting possibility that death was not an end, but merely a peaceful transition into a deeper, more profound state of understanding. When the sacred ship finally returned to the harbor, its white sails glowing softly in the early morning light, the day of his departure arrived with a quiet, undeniable grace. As the afternoon slowly stretched toward the evening, casting long, softening shadows across the dusty floor of the cell, his friends gathered around him one last time, struggling to hold back their quiet, sorrowful tears. Yet it was Socrates, the man whose journey was coming to a close, who provided the deepest, most profound comfort, gently soothing their weeping hearts and reminding them that there was absolutely nothing to fear in the quiet embrace of the unknown. He spoke to them softly about the heavy, limiting nature of the physical body, comparing it to a temporary restrictive shell that the mind must wear during its time in the sunlit world. And he described death simply as the beautiful, natural unbinding of those heavy tethers. If death was a deep, dreamless sleep, he murmured gently, then it would be the most wonderful, restorative rest a weary soul could ever hope to find, a vast, quiet night completely free from the demands and the exhaustions of waking life. And if it was a journey to another quieter realm, then it was simply an invitation to continue his peaceful, wandering conversations among the ancient wise spirits of the past, walking slowly through the shaded, eternal groves of a world beyond the reach of time. As the golden sun began its final slow descent beneath the distant rolling hills of Attica, bathing the stone walls of the cell in a rich, warm, and comforting light, the jailer quietly entered the room, his own eyes heavy with respectful, quiet tears. He handed the small wooden cup of hemlock to the barefoot philosopher, softly apologizing for the duty he was required to perform, having recognized over the past month that this gentle, unassuming old man was the noblest and most peaceful soul he had ever known. Socrates received the cup with absolute, unwavering composure, his hands completely steady, his breathing slow, deep, and perfectly even, displaying not a single trace of hesitation or regret. He offered a soft, whispered prayer that his journey from this physical world to the next would be peaceful and prosperous. And then he drank the quiet potion in one smooth, unhurried motion. The final moments of his life were described by those who loved him as a portrait of pure, surreal dignity, completely free from pain, struggle, or fear. The hemlock did not act as a violent force, but rather as a gentle cooling wave that began softly in his bare feet. Those very same feet that had walked the rough stones of the Agora for 70 years and slowly, peacefully crept upward, gently putting his physical body to sleep, while his mind remained beautifully clear and awake. When his legs grew heavy with that soft, comforting numbness, he walked slowly to a simple wooden bed and lay down upon his back, gently covering his face with his own cloak, a profound, symbolic gesture of drawing the curtains on the waking world and willingly embracing the absolute, undisturbed rest of the night. His final soft words were spoken to his dear friend Crito, a quiet, gentle reminder to offer a rooster to Asclepius, the ancient god of healing, a beautiful, poetic suggestion that this final, quiet sleep was not a tragedy, but the ultimate peaceful cure for the beautiful, exhausting sickness of mortal life. And then, as the last rays of the Athenian sun slipped completely away, leaving the world wrapped in the soft, protective velvet of the twilight, the philosopher simply stopped breathing, his life fading as softly and naturally as a single note of music dissolving slowly into the vast, silent expanse of a quiet room. His physical journey was complete, but the profound, unshakable peace he had cultivated deep within his soul did not end in that small stone cell. Instead, his quiet, gentle spirit and his beautiful method of patient questioning flowed outward like a slow, steady river rippling silently across the long, vast centuries, completely outlasting the grand marble temples of the Acropolis and the heavy bronze statues of kings. The wisdom he discovered in the quiet shade of the plane trees traveled across distant oceans and through countless generations, arriving safely and quietly here in this very moment, to rest gently beside you in the comforting dark of your own room. The physical walls of the ancient prison have long since faded away into dust, melting back into the warm, sun-baked earth. But the vast, silent, and comforting dark of the night sky that watched over him remains exactly the same, watching patiently over you now. You too can release the heavy, exhausting burdens of your own daily life, knowing that true peace requires absolutely no effort to hold, and that there is a deep, enduring comfort in simply letting go of all the things you cannot control. Allow the gentle, cooling sensation of absolute relaxation to start at the tips of your own toes slowly and peacefully, traveling upward through your body, soothing your muscles and quieting your mind, mirroring the deeply peaceful transition of the barefoot philosopher. And so, as the ancient lamps of Athens softly flicker out, let your own thoughts drift away, wrapped in the timeless, quiet stillness of a soul completely at rest. Sleep well.